Well, good morning. This is Dr. Nona James, and welcome to week 2 of CONR 606 on the subject of theory here at Abilene Christian University. I hope everyone had a good first week of getting settled in with the coursework that you're involved with doing, and I also hope you enjoyed the participation in your discussions. Last week was an easy week. I think it provided an opportunity for everyone to get settled in and just to understand what you'll be participating in and involved in for the next 6 weeks of the course. Be mindful, the courses move very quickly. And so, as you can see, we're through with week 1, and before you know it, week 3, and we'll have 4 weeks after that. So our time does move very quickly. One thing I also want to do is thank and let you know how much I appreciate those that participated with the Zoom. I think it was real informative. We had an opportunity to get to know one another, and thank you for sharing your introductions at that time, and you gave me an idea of what you all are looking for in relation to what you hope to get out of the course as you continue with your coursework here at Abilene and as well as in your careers. The purpose of this video this morning is to provide you just an overview of last week's assignment, to give a brief overview of what you'll be involved in with this week's assignment. And also, I wanted to discuss a little bit of housekeeping. By that, some logistical issues related to what I want you to remember as you proceed with doing your assignments and communicating with one another. So I do have some things you'll be seeing me look to my left or right, because I have some notes here that I want to make sure that I'm very clear with what I share with you. The one thing that was a question that came up was, do you all need to have a cover page, an abstract for your assignments that you present to me? Now, truth be told, APA and academic writing, especially when you get into thesis writing, essays, and even in your other courses, you may be required to do a cover page and abstracts. Just be mindful of that. That makes for a great paper, just the completeness of it. Your abstract page, which has the title, the information, your word count. Then you have your cover page, which has your information, word count. The abstract, which is kind of a summary introduction of what your paper is about. The body of the paper, which is introduction, the meat of it, the conclusion usually, which is good. And then you have your reference page, which is separate. Please be mindful the reference page is separate from your body of your paper. That's one thing I noticed this past week. You want to have that reference page separate. And I take that back. I don't think you did have a little bit of a writing by document on there, but just be mindful of that. Now, question, do you need to have that cover page abstract running head? If you want to do it, then I encourage you to do it. And at the same time, if you don't do it, I'm not going to count you off, me and Dr. Sullivan. I want you to spend more time on writing versus adding those as extras in there. But if you do it, there's no extra points. It's just going to just add to your paper that's there. So just be mindful of that. The other is, if you do not use a cover page that has your information, name, coursework, the course that you're in, 606, the title of the course, and your word count, then please, at the upper right or left of your paper, put your name, course number, and the word count for each assignment, as well as your title, and then going into the body. When you do your papers each week, a lot of things that I've noticed, and I'm going to tell you there's not anything bad about it, but the nature of the course along the way is that you are writing academic papers, as I've mentioned previously. Introduction, body of the paper, and then your conclusion and your reference page. A lot of times when I read some of the papers that I've gotten even in the past, example I have here in front of me, it's assignment 1 of last week. It says, how does your definition improve on previously established ones? And another question is, what are the weaknesses in your definition? A lot of students will just simply write that question down, just like it's an essay question quiz. where the quiz says, write this response. What are the weaknesses? And then they'll write a response. I'll accept it, but I really would prefer if you not write it just like it's listed as a recipe or your instructions, but perhaps you can change that as your introduction. You want to meet every one of the instructions and rubrics, but you could say perhaps the weaknesses that I found in my definition included, and then state in your paragraph what you learned about that. Another one says, what role does communication play in the art of peacemaking? Instead of listing that and with a number in your paper and then again writing it like it's a quiz response, you may say the role of communication plays an important part in peacemaking because ... and what your response is. I really like the papers established like that. And I think that it's even more enjoyable to the reader at the time. So that's my recommendation when you establish your papers. Another concern that I had, and I told some of the students I would bring it to attention, be mindful that it is full participation for the discussions. Every classmate is expecting a response from their discussion. This past week, we did have a few that provided their initial input on the discussion board, and I really appreciate that effort that everyone made. I don't think anyone missed it. However, some students did not get a response. So therefore, when it came time for me reviewing the rubric, I did not see any responses. Be mindful that I am giving some consideration how to handle that, because if you have done your original input and you're waiting for a response but you didn't get it, please be mindful that you're not going to be deducted points because of that, but those that do not respond, there will be points deducted. So just be mindful of that. I don't want to be taking points away when everybody needs as many points as they can. So just be thoughtful and gracious of that when you're working with your peers, and also be timely. I think we had some good responses that came in early. Example, you should today start after you get your initial post up. You really should, the rest of your peers and to one another, be looking for those updates and begin writing on those, as we talked about in the Zoom and last week. Someone asked about modules being open earlier, or they finished module 1 and asking me, can I get another one sooner? The standard for the program and the coursework for each semester is modules open on Tuesday morning for your next assignment. Now, mindful, there are some folks that are going out of the country. They have indicated, 1 or 2 students, they will not have any internet availability for the nature of what they're doing. Some military with firewalls and preclusions from that. Connect with me and Dr. Sullivan, and we'll be sensitive to that and try and help you where we can. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is to ensure that you, when you do your responses, another area, but this is back to papers and writing the responses, do not just simply say Weston Turner said and quote them or paraphrase what they said, but you may be able to define what it is. Example, this week there's some theories you're going to be looking at. One of my favorites is groupthink. And so it's a matter of defining what groupthink is, which could be in accordance with Weston Turner. It could be another source or two that you want to add, cite them correctly. And then after you have stated that, just don't end it there. Be able to use an example what groupthink is. One of the most profound examples of groupthink, which, if you know, groupthink is where one individual or a group of individuals have an impact on other individuals or 1 or 2 from a group, where those individuals, the majority, kind of quote unquote gangs up on our way is best. You better follow our way, or if you don't do this, then this is going to happen, and almost with threats. So it's a real interesting theory And an example of that is that where groupthink was very profoundly used was in the Challenger crises. And a bunch of engineers, a group of engineers, they proposed to go ahead and let the shuttle run. But it was one engineer that was a holdout, and he indicated the error, or the I can't think what the word is now, team. But anyway, it was a flaw that was on one of the tiles, the exterior of the shuttle. And that one area concerned him enough that he says, no, we should not run the shuttle. Well, the team, long story short, they finally proposed to him, we've got to do this. Everything's set to go. We can't stop it now. And so that shuttle went up, even though that gentleman provided all of the, his explanation as to the hazards that could happen, the air, as far as the technology. And sadly, we all know the rest of the story. There were souls that were lost on that, and it changed history as far as the space program. So that's a good example. I share that with you because that's simply what I want you to do. It doesn't have to be long, extraneous, but I want you to be able to synthesize the information. Tell me, show me, and Dr. Sullivan, that you understand the use of what these theories are about that you're going to be engaging in this week. The other is that you, I can't think this morning. I can think the snow is still giving me problems for last week. But anyway, I think you all get the gist as to that's what I'm expecting for you to do, is try and synthesize your work, not just give those yes, no answers, or expounding on a definition and saying, this is it. This is what the book says, and I believe it. Tell me why you believe it. Give me those examples. Give us those examples. Another thing as far as logistics I want to share is you all have we're in two sections, section 1, W1, and section W2. I am the instructor for students assigned when you registered with section W2. Dr. Sullivan, anyone outside of W2, that would be W1, is assigned to Dr. Adele Sullivan. And so if you have any questions at all in W1, please refer to Dr. Sullivan, and she's prepared to help you with what your needs are there. Anything having to do with emergencies, hardships, and I've mentioned that before, illnesses, catastrophic events, or things that are beyond your control, I encourage you to talk with your academics, advisors, and ambassadors for that. Last week, we talked about, and it was a very easy week, but you had the opportunity of presenting your definition, creating your definition of what communication is, or what is it about. And through the responses we got in the discussion, I found them to be very informative, very creative, some of them, and some of them detailed, and some was only one-liners. And some really didn't say much at all, but it was your definition. But just be mindful, again, I would like to see more clear and concise feedback when you're provided those opportunities, even to be creative. But I found that the communication, and for the majority, it seemed like everyone enjoyed the feedback that was there. Your assignment after your discussion was your thoughts and the papers that we'll be reading, starting as I did last night, has to do with the use of the critiques that your classmates gave you and what you thought about those, your feelings, what you felt, even emotionally, the feelings that may have been risen, negative or positive, about that feedback. And you also had an opportunity to integrate that with Christianity, through the lens of Christianity. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what you all came up with, which leads us into this week. For this week, you will have some reading assignments out of Weston Turner. That's the majority of your reading, chapter 6 through 8 and chapter 14. When you read this literature, it's not that you, at this point, even in your academic career, you should be able to read by scanning. And by that, you read the title, the introduction, the conclusion, the general subtitles that are in the chapter, and see if anything captures your eye in relation to what's being asked of you. That's a scanning process, and as you move into graduate and postgraduate work, you'll be required to do more of that because there's so much literature that you'll be thrust with to review. So I encourage you to look at that. And if you do have time and want to go back and read a chapter more in depth, then do so. But I'm sharing that with you because you've got a lot of reading that you're going to be engaged with. So you've got Weston Turner, and then you also have your PDFs from Egley and Griffin. Don't be sure and look at the videos from Dr. Fleming. She is going to be presenting 4 videos that has to do with the uncertainty theory, expectancy violation theory, cognitive discussion, and groupthink. And then for your assignments, you've got your general discussion that you will do, and you'll present your input on that on the discussion board. And then you're going to be actively engaged with your group. This is where you're going to have group work, and majority of you have between 4 and 5 in your group. But again, it's important that you communicate with one another as to completing that. The assignment is following up on the discussion, and it's in 2-part. So you're going to be writing as your group collectively and using a source called Google Doc to load up your information. And that's so everybody can see what you've put, and you can make the edits and changes as you work with your group. And then the second half of that is your assignment of assessing, the class contribution that's there. So it's very, very important that everyone is fully engaged. It's going to be a lot of detail to this assignment too, because it's in steps. You have a number of steps. But if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me by the Canvas email, your prospective instructors, and we are prepared to work with you. I hope you have a great week. I think we're progressing into more detail on theory and how it's important when it comes with communication and when we're dealing with conflict and from the Christian perspective. So I always like to close and being mindful to say, just remember, what is it that Christ would do when it comes to some of the topics that we're looking at? You will have an opportunity to expound on that, even on your presentations in the writing. And I just want to encourage you all to have a great week. One of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 29:11. The scripture says, and I'm paraphrasing it because I'm not a good memory person, but it simply states that God has provided plans for us, plans to prosper us and not harm us. This is a scripture that I have gleaned on for years. You'll probably hear me say it again, or if I talk to you one-on-one. But I say that because you are not here by incident or by happenstance, but you are here with purpose, and hearing some of the goals and visions that you all have for your completing your studies and what you want to do. Just remember that you are a gift from God. You are fully, wonderfully, and fearfully made by the Lord, and He has your favor. So I pray and trust that you all have a great day and a good week, and we'll be talking to you soon. Be sure and get in touch with us if you have questions. Take care and God bless.